Hello, everyone. It's the season 4 season finale. I am T. Krulos.
And I'm Heidi Erickson.
Cool. How are you doing, Heidi?
Well, I'm not wearing any pants, so good, pretty
Yeah.
good. I don't know if you guys know this, but T and I actually never wear pants when we
During
do
the
the
podcast.
podcast. It's an unwritten rule. It's kind of a superstition. We don't know what'll happen if we put pants on, so we just don't ever. No pants.
Okay, so I mentioned this briefly in the intro to the show if you're listening to the final podcast. But anyway, before I say that, I had we're taking a spring break. I'm having a surgery tomorrow. It's a surgery on a hernia. This is a great place for Andrew to play a clip of the classic Weird Al song "Living with a Hernia." Um, but this has been giving me anxiety this week.
Yeah.
So I've been having these very anxiety dreams. So this is an actual dream I had last night. This is not like last week. I made up a dream where I dived into a swimming pool full of Coors Light, as we talked about subliminal dream advertising. But this is a real one. Okay, last night I had this dream. I woke up and I was in this kind of dingy River West flat, and
Plausible already.
it was a mess, and there was these piles of wet clothing on the floor and on one of the chairs, like clothing that had been pulled out of a washer but not like spun or anything.
Gross. Okay.
And I walked by this room and I looked, and my roommate was Richard McCaslin, aka the Phantom Patriot, who
No.
was a costume conspiracy theorist that I wrote my book American Madness about. And I was like, "Oh, this is so weird. Like I'm living with Richard McCaslin. Like how the hell did this happen?" And I woke up, and that's like really one of the only parts I can remember. Although it was a very long, strange dream, I can tell.
Bro, you
But
spent way too much time with those kids. I'm telling you, it's strange. And if anybody was going to implant a subliminal dream machine into your brain, it would be McCaslin for sure.
so I had this dream randomly, which I haven't. I mean, I think about once in a while, but it's not really been on my mind. And then today, Primus drops their first new song in 5 years. It's
Amazing.
it's called Conspiranoia. It's
Ooh.
it's 11 and a half minutes long, and
Spectacular.
it really is a spectacular song. It's all about conspiracy theory paranoia, and they have this animated video, and it has a lot of stuff that we've talked about on this podcast. They talk about flat Earth and QAnon, and Bigfoot, and it's going on and on. And I'm like, huh. Um, I know that the singer of Primus, Les Claypool, knows about Richard McCaslin, which is a long story I won't get into. But
Wait, what? No, no, what? No, no, no. The lead singer of Primus knows about.
yeah,
How about just like a.
sure. I guess the short version is Les Claypool lives very close to the Bohemian Grove. He read about Richard's raid. Richard raided the Bohemian Grove back in 2002. And he thought, wow, that's really weird. I'm going to write a little ditty about it for one of my solo albums. So he wrote a song called Phantom Patriot. And I interviewed Les Claypool. It took me a long time. I finally got through to his management, and they're like, all right, dude, we'll give you like 10 minutes on the phone with him. That's it. Okay? I was like, great. So I got to talk to him a little bit about the case. He was a little bit nervous that Richard might try to kill him. So I had to try to tell Les Claypool that I didn't think that this guy would try to kill him. And I got about 8 minutes in the conversation, and then his publicist got on the other end of the phone, like your mom does back in the old days when you're talking to someone. It's like, okay, thanks. We gotta go. Bye. So there's a couple of quotes from Les Claypool in my book. So I was like, okay, he wrote this song. He knows who Richard McCaslin is. I'm watching this video. All of a sudden, there's a flash of the Great Owl of Bohemia for like half a second. I'm like, okay, wow. So he's making a reference to the Bohemian Grove. And then towards the end of the video, there's this very paranoid guy surrounded by TVs, and the TVs are showing all these clips of different things like Bigfoot and black helicopters. And then all of a sudden, there's the Phantom Patriot for 3 seconds in this video. A photo of him in his costume.
And you said this song is 11.5 minutes long?
Yeah. It's a really great prog rock style. Adds to the paranoia of the song, I think. Conspiranoia, the new latest song from Primus.
I think to myself, if this could just be longer.
No, I do. I was like, okay, you've covered a lot of ground here. Oh, one of the best parts of the video, by the way, is they're going through a lot of different conspiracy theories, but then there's this mega list that starts scrolling across the screen, and some of them are real conspiracies, and some of them are kind of joke conspiracies. Like Flatwood's monster is a lesbian is one of the theories. And,
she is. We've hung out.
Gay frogs is on the list, and that's a real one, according to Alex Jones. There's all these conspiracies just scrolling and scrolling up the screen as you're watching, and it's pretty intense.
That's fantastic. I'm really happy that somehow Primus made it onto this show. I didn't even know it was going to happen. I think that's beautiful. Yeah. I think we've spoken about Primus, and we have spoken at length on multiple occasions about Gwar, and I think that's really great. I think that it's important that we take the time to touch on all of the biggest weirdos of the rock and roll scene. Let's try and do that more. If you guys have any Weird Al Yankovic, we've obviously spoken about. It's right there in the name. But if you guys can think of any other super weirdos in music that we should discuss, you should let us know so that we can do our research.
Because then what we're going to do is we're going to do the ultimate GoFundMe, and we'll put together a Tease Weird Week Fest, and we'll have Primus, Gwar, Weird Al will be there, the Residents,
right.
all of the weird bands are all going to play this festival.
That's a great idea. I think it's a great idea. I think we should have Tease Weird Ball. Actually, I think we should have two. I think that we should have Tease Weird Ball and Tease Weird Ball 2 Electric Boogaloo so that we can refer to them collectively as Tease Weird Balls. And then during those songs, like the DJ will only play music, like the weirdest stuff from the weirdest bands. And then we'll have a surprise guest appearance by Gwar, and it'll be amazing.
Sounds pretty dope. Okay, I got a shout out. You're going to love this because this is something we talked about. We have a really great Tease Weird Week fan and Milwaukee Paranormal Conference a volunteer named Judy Dabrowski. I think we even mentioned her on the show before, but you'll recall, I think this was last episode, maybe the episode before, we talked about a very unusual fragrance that you can buy. And I'm holding it up to the camera. So Judy was like, hey, I got something I'm going to drop off for you. And it's this little baggie, and there's a card in it that says, you will forget what has happened until the appointed time. And what's in it but a small bottle of abduction perfume.
Amazing! Have you smelled it? What is it like?
It's pretty, it's pretty spot on because the first thing that I kind of smell is like pine. It makes me think of standing in like a pine forest, when
sure.
You're gonna see that. And then there's some other hard to identify scents that definitely provoke mystery. So yeah, we're gonna save this for season 5. And this is going to be a prize that we're going to give out next season, probably for trivia, or maybe we'll do a special contest.
I really want to smell that and see if it's just going to like trigger a fire in the sky, hiding under the table, maple syrup on my face type situation. I'm really sad that I'm not there to do this right now. Okay. Yeah. We got to stop doing this whole thing Zoom style and be in the studio together for some Howard Stern-esque hijinks, because I could be having a traumatic experience right now, and I'm really upset that that's not an option for me.
Well, before we give it away as a prize, I'll spray some on your wrist, okay?
Super. Thanks, Judy. Good job.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
I was surprised. I was like, "What is going on here?" And then I flipped over. I'm like, "Oh, Abduction Perfume." I want to get them as a Milwaukee Paranormal Conference sponsor.
Oh, obviously.
That would be great.
Yeah.
But it also ties into, you found another unusual perfume scent. I gotta admit, I love what this is based on. Not sure that I would like it as a perfume though, and that is in a French fry scent perfume. This seems greasy to me. I don't know.
It's just called frites, which I think is so frites.
Yeah, yes.
Frites, a little French little chanson at the end. Frites.
Full name is Frites by Idaho.
No, it is because it's sponsored by like the Idaho Potato Council or some shit like that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Oh man. See, here's the thing, is that somebody thought this up as like a quirky joke, but I actually really want it because I don't know that I necessarily want to smell like French fries. Being someone who worked in the service industry for many, many, many years, I have spent enough time smelling like French fries. Thank you. I'm good. But as like a room spray or something, I could see that, because there's a difference between like the smell of stale grease and this smell of fresh, hot French fries. Like I actually would probably like the smell of fresh, hot French fries everywhere. Like, remember when the buses ran on biodiesel? They had the buses for a second were running on biodiesel, and if you pulled up behind the bus, it kind of smelled a little bit like hot French fries. And I got to tell you, it wasn't unpleasant. I didn't hate it. And I can definitely think of people who would wear the fresh, hot French fry scent and feel totally like sexy and luxurious, or at least appealing. They said they made this partly because, and it was by the Idaho Potato Commission. Forgive me, it's the Potato Commission. They did a study that said that 90%, nearly 90% of Americans find the smell of French fries irresistible. So it's not even about smelling good. It's about smelling irresistible. And there has long been like a conspiracy theory, or like, I guess it's more of an urban myth, that like McDonald's put like some sort of addictive chemical into their grease or their potatoes to make them that way. But the truth of the matter is that hot fat is just one of those things that triggers all of our serotonin and dopamine in our brain. It's addictive. It's an addictive thing. So, I mean, I guess that would, like, I don't know. I don't know if I would want people to be addicted to me, to find me irresistible in the same way they find hot fat irresistible. I don't.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's different types of irresistible. I don't see the smell of French fries as being aphrodisiac as much as it makes me hungry for food, for fatty food. You know,
right? Totally, which is fair. Like the smell of hot donuts is like really appealing too, I guess. But like, if you think about it, a lot of perfumes smell like vanilla. Like vanilla is a huge element in a lot of perfumes. It's like the base. And vanilla is a food. You eat it. It's not like it has any other association except that you consume it. So if vanilla can be a hoity-toity perfume smell, then mayhap fried potatoes may as well. That's reasonable.
Yeah. Here's something else. I didn't read this one at all. We got a bunch of stories. I got all my tabs open here. But here's something interesting that you can gnaw on. It might go good with a side of fries. This is lab-grown lion meat. Could be set for tables at UK restaurants. That's what this is.
It's not just lion meat either. It's all kinds of meat. They're super excited. Here's some of the animals from the list. We have lion, zebra, because if you're going to serve lion, you should also serve zebra. Giraffe is a choice that you could have. It looks like some sea animals like whales, also a thing that you can get, which I think is beautiful too. So here's the thing about it is that it's cultivated meat. So this is like the impossible stuff, I guess. What they did was they took animal cells and they put them into a little petri dish and they were like, go. And then they grew a bunch and they essentially grew this muscle tissue in a petri dish and then ground it up. And it technically is lion meat. Technically, it's lion meat. Technically, it is zebra meat. Like the DNA, molecularly, it is that animal. It's not really that animal, people would argue, because an animal isn't just its like molecular composition. It's also the place that it lives and all the weird little funguses and yeast that make up its little microbiology and all the food it consumes and the water it drinks. So I'm guessing that it doesn't taste exactly like that meat would taste. Like, have you had the Impossible Burgers, which are supposed to be beef?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
That's lab grown beef as well.
Yeah.
It doesn't taste exactly
Yeah,
like
it doesn't
beef.
taste bad, but it doesn't taste the same.
No, like if you've ever seen a really good drag queen do Dolly Parton, that's what an Impossible Burger is like. Like it's good for its own thing, but it's definitely not the original. There's just something about it that's just a little bit off. So I imagine that's what these burgers are like as well, because that's how they're selling them as burgers. I don't know. Would you try it? Would you eat the like lion burgers or whatever?
I might, and I'll tell you why. But first, I want to show this comment. It's from a viewer named Smelly.
Hi, Smelly.
I can finally eat all of the predators and make my Neanderthal ancestors
You
proud.
super can. You super can. That's a good point. Actually, that's a good point because we don't really. Hold on. Ray says this reminds me of Better Off Ted when they lab grow meat and the taster says it tastes like despair. Sure. Well, I mean, that's one of the arguments for the meat actually is that it's kinder. It's not like it's not only are you not actually killing animals to do it, no animals are killed in the making of this, but it also uses like half of the water. It puts out like 75% less like CO2 into the eye. Like it's better for the environment. It's way better for the environment. But there are questions.
Yeah.
People have thoughts and questions. This is obviously, I don't really believe in things being unnatural per se, because human beings are just monkeys. That means that anything that we create is like even toxic waste is natural because we made it and we're just animals. You know what I mean? In that sense. But we weren't necessarily made to consume protein that we grew in a lab. Also, like, I think we're not really supposed to eat predators per se. Like animals that live exclusively on other proteins is not the nature of the food chain, really. So I would maybe be weirded out by eating lion. I would eat the zebra though, and I'd for sure eat the giraffe. I have definitely gone to the zoo and been like, that looks delicious. Totally.
Here's what I love about this article. They include some a concept menu. I don't think this is from a particular restaurant. I think maybe this is the website itself having a lark about this. But I want to read what's on the menu because it's very interesting. To start your appetizer, you could have a cheese board with variety of cultivated giraffe hams. The main course, spinach ravioli with white sauce, baked cultivated lion meat with potatoes, French fries, of course. For dessert, baked creamy cheesecake with cultivated elephant oil. That sounds fucking gross. And then there's a children's menu, which is cultivated tiger nuggets with sweet potatoes and chocolate ice cream. I don't know.
That sounds great.
I don't know if any of those really appeal to me. Maybe the tiger nuggets.
I mean, you don't know. Maybe you try tiger nuggets and you're like, tiger nuggets, where have you been my whole life? Also, would they be tiger-shaped nuggets? I think they should be. And if they can do that with living animals, can they make actual dino nuggets? Like
Mm-hmm.
real dinosaur nuggets because I would eat that just on principle, just on a weird Pee-wee's Playhouse sort of like position. I would have the real dino nuggets, and I would choose Triceratops.
You could have a woolly mammoth burger like they do on the
Yeah.
Flintstones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Brontosaurus beef for sure. I don't know. I don't feel weird about eating. Oh,
Shane says,
sound.
sounds like Rocky Mountain oysters. If you know what
Um,
those are, you know. If you don't, you don't.
I've never had a Rocky Mountain oyster, but I would eat it. Whatever. Waste not, want not. It's a perfectly legit piece of meat. Like, whatever. I don't care. I'm not scared to eat any of that shit, though. Like, there's places where they eat fried guinea pig and, like, I don't know. I've had head cheese. It's fine. Like, I feel like if you're going to kill something and eat it, it's not the time to get squeamish. Like, you killed it, you're going to eat it. Stomach, eyeballs, brain. You should eat the whole Rocky Mountain situation. Just go full on, full on all the way. It's in fact a pity they can't grow individual organs. They can just kind of grow like meat, like tissue, like muscle tissue or whatever. Because I would eat like a lion heart. That seems like really symbolic. I would totally do that. Like elephant nose souffle. Like that'd be weird and interesting. I think it's boring to make burgers. Super boring. My complaint about this is that I cannot eat a giraffe's liver. I want it to be more authentic. They should try harder.
Yeah. Giraffe liver with a side of neck. Giraffe neck. Yeah.
Delicioso. Little giraffe neck. That sounds like a euphemism for something. The old giraffe neck with a side of liver. Mm.
Here's speaking of inventions that are questionable. This one I feel like we'll talk about the story. It would be better if we could show a picture of it. But there's an invention. It seems dangerous. I'll tell you why. It's a air purifier that's built into noise canceling headphones, so you can get fresh air while you're wearing these headphones. But to me, if you're having an air purifier that you want to wear on your face, it's because you're going out in the dirty city with a lot of smog, and you're gonna try to filter that out. If you're also wearing noise canceling headphones, I mean, that seems dangerous to me, because if you're in a city, there's traffic all over the place. You need to kind of
Right.
have your ears available to hear what's going on around you.
Right. No, totally. The thing about this that weirds me out the most is, first of all, that this device was invented by Dyson, which is the company that makes vacuum cleaners. And I
Oh,
don't really want to put anything invented by a company that specializes in vacuum cleaners on my head or facial area. I think that seems like a bad call. So I'm going to not do that. What creeps me out about it the most is that we've arrived at a point in our evolution where we now need to like wear like space helmets on our own planet. That makes me uncomfortable and I don't care for it. Because you're right, like in the city, they tested this in Beijing, and Beijing notoriously is one of the most polluted cities in the world. The kind of place, like in Los Angeles, they have smog warnings where in the morning, like on your morning commute, they'll tell you the weather and also how poisonous the air is, which you actually don't need them to tell you because you can see it sitting over the city like a nicotine stain on the window of a 1950s diner. But like, there's also places where, for example, when the forest fires were really bad in California, there were places all over California where it was like the pollution level was super high, not because they were in a city, but because these forest fires were happening, 100 miles away and the wind was carrying it to them. Like, there's tons of places where that might be a thing. I also wonder, because it says it filters out 99% of particles or whatever, but I wonder if that's not a thing that they're like, because a lot of companies are preparing for the possibility that there might be another pandemic, because the pandemic was always a possibility, but we had to deal with the reality of it actually happening. And I'm sure all these companies were kicking themselves because none of them had any products. They had no way to capitalize
yeah,
on the pandemic until the pandemic had pretty much passed. So they're like, well, we're not going to get caught with our pants down around our ankles again. Bust
yeah,
out the space helmets. So, oh,
yeah.
that's a thing.
Well, you're saying it makes you nervous because it's a vacuum cleaner company that made it. So this thing, in theory, it could accidentally be put into reverse. and then it'll suck all of the air out of your lungs, right?
And no one will hear you scream because you the noise canceling headphones are canceling your noise instead. Yeah, you don't want to pull the old on the table. It looks cool though. I don't know. Like if that became a thing, I would totally get some with like flames painted on the side or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here's an interesting story that I found. I've seen stories like this before, and I'll say that when people die, people handle that in different ways, and they have different traditions or concepts of what their death should look like. So here's a headline on this one. It's embalmed body of dead rapper propped up at DC nightclub. And here's a little bit of an explanation. This is about a rapper who called himself Gunu. He was 24, was shot in a parking lot in Prince George's County, Maryland on March 18th, and died several hours later at an area hospital. His family believes he was a victim of an armed robbery, and the police department is offering a $25,000 reward for any information leading to the assailant's arrest. On Sunday, April 3rd, Gunu's family and friends held a celebratory event at Washington, D.C.'s Bliss nightclub, which was billed as the rapper's final show. As Complex, which is a different website, points out, Gunu's apparent embalmed corpse was propped upright and on full display during the event, adorned with a crown and designer clothing.
Fabulous. I love this. I love this story very much. It just goes to show, and I don't know, I've talked about this several times. The rules about what we do with our remains are very fast and loose, and most of them have to do with public health. I'm not sure that they had to get any permits about doing this, but they probably didn't. And this also wouldn't be the first person who had decided that they wanted their body to be viewed, the final viewing, with them propped up in front of a bunch of people. This has happened more and more recently, where like what they want is to be shown sitting upright or, sitting on the back of their motorcycle. There was that man who was famously buried a few years ago sitting on his Harley. And then there was some famous actress who was buried sitting upright in her convertible car. I don't remember who it was. It didn't happen long ago. The point is you can do whatever you want with your corpse. I hope that those were his last wishes and not just that his family thought it would be funny, although that's pretty great too. I don't hate that. I don't hate that. I used to threaten my parents all the time because I was a terrible child, that I would definitely arrange for their bodies to be on display, like at a TGI Fridays or something, when they passed away. It's like that song. I think it's by Merle Haggard. Prop me up beside the jukebox when I die.
Oh yeah, there you go.
I don't want to go. I want to go to heaven, but I don't want to go tonight. Just fill my boots up with sand and put a stiff drink in my hand. And there's a line in that song that says, "You can pay your last respects 1/4 at a time." When I was a kid, I thought that was the most gangster ass shit in the universe.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen specifically someone being propped up like this to DJ, but I have seen instances where they'll have the body like sitting at a party kind of. And people,
Yeah.
And it's almost like Irish Wake a little bit. People are drinking and gambling and playing music, and the corpse is kind of sitting there enjoying the party.
Yeah, I like
the rest
that.
of the people. Yeah,
I think that's great. I think it's great because like the way our culture looks at death is really fucked up and not super healthy to begin with. It's part of the reason that people spend Brazilian dollars on plastic surgeries and are constantly trying to look younger than they are because like we're scared to death of our own mortality and it's not good for us. And it makes me think of that tribe of people in Indonesia who like they dig their relatives up like every 2 years. It's a whole huge celebration. They clean them off, they change the clothes of their corpses, and they like hand them around to family members to take pictures of them essentially with these people's corpses. And to them, this is a sign of great respect and like showing that they haven't forgotten these people because they're comfortable with death that way. And that's how they do it. I just dislike the idea of my corpse being put in like this big, like, fuck, some of those coffins, dude, are worth more than my car. Just ridiculous. $7, $10, $15, $25,000 that they're just going to stick in the ground anyway. I say turn me into a hat rack, something useful. Maybe like a bar of some kind I can like hold like mugs of beer, or like, I don't know, something interesting. Just like, yeah, don't just leave me there for the party. Leave me there forever. Leave me. I would like to collect dust. I would like someone to have to dust me. I think that sounds great.
Here we go. This was from earlier when we started talking about this. Ray said that's the way to go out. Yeah, I mean, I love this one too. This is from earlier when we were talking about animal things. Shane says, "Don't do that to my cheesecake." He's talking about the elephant cheesecake.
Shane, that could be delicious. You don't know. Elephants eat all grass and fruit and shit. Maybe that would be the tastiest cheesecake you ever had in your life.
Oh, and Shane also identified the person you're talking about that was buried in the Ferrari. That was Sandra West.
Shane, you are such a treasure. Shane is like our spy supercomputer. He's fucking best. Yeah, like it happens. People should do whatever they want with their corpses. I feel like people really get bullied into like taking care of their loved ones in a way that just is super expensive and ornate and might not have anything to do with their beliefs. And that's not a good way to go. Have them stuff you and turn you into a hat rack. I think it's the thing to go. Also, I'd like to point out that Ray is a good friend of mine, and it has been for almost 20 years. And Ray and I have been in a heated debate for the entirety of this period of time, because Ray very much wants to be mummified in the traditional Egyptian mode, which is classy, and I like it. That's a classy way to go. Like Nick Cage, who, by the way, has a pyramid. He already had a pyramid built for himself to be buried in, and he also wishes to be mummified. Ray wants to be mummified. I would like to be ideally consumed. And I told her that no one is entitled to any portion of my vast estate unless they agree to eat my brain on toast points as though it were some sort of pate. I think that that's not that's a small, like what? It's just a little brain on toast. Like, what's the problem? She's scared she's going to get mad cow disease. I told her that's a myth. And then there's the whole prion thing, because apparently when you eat human brains, you can suffer from a very specific thing called prion disease. And that is where your DNA, I guess, kind of unzips itself and you die pooping yourself and laughing maniacally, which I'll grant you doesn't sound that fun. But you would get to tell people that you ate my brain for years before that happened, because prion disease is very slow moving. So I'm like, weigh it, Ray. That's all I'm trying to say.
Well, it seems that's pretty gnarly.
You would eat. Come on, like you would eat somebody's brain if that was your last request, right? Just a little piece, just a tiny piece of their brain.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, you would do it, Tia. No, you would. 2 beers, you'd be like, yeah, whatever. Just put it right on top of my brat. I'll never even taste it. It's fine.
Okay, what we got next? I don't even know what this is about. You found
the
this
beaver one?
Yes, exactly. How would you know? How would you know that's the tab I opened?
It's the best headline I've ever
seen. The headline is London recruits Justin and Sigourney Beaver to save city. What the hell's going on? And I can tell this must be London, because the image they have is of 2 very happy looking beavers with Big Ben in the background.
The whole thing is very suggestive. Like the headline is suggestive. The photo that goes with it is very suggestive. I think the original headline I saw was giant beavers to save London. And I was like, I have to know what that's about. So here's the problem with London and its lack of beavers. There's just not enough beavers in London is the problem. London has so few beavers because 200 years ago, they hunted the beavers to extinction. Beavers, I don't know if you know this, beaver pelts are what you use to make top hats. Like top hats. Like if you just looked at those, I guess you wouldn't really know that they were fur, but they were fur and they were made from beavers. They hunted these beavers to extinction in that area because they used to be native to that part. They also hunted them for castoreum. Do you know what castoreum is?
Mm.
Oh, you're going to love this. So vanilla is really hard to grow. You actually have to go and hand pollinate each individual plant in order to get vanilla. It's actually an orchid, the root of an orchid. Very expensive stuff. So about 150 years ago, they were like, boy, oh boy, it should be neat if there was a way to make vanilla that wasn't made from vanilla. But because we didn't have fancy Batman villain-esque chemicals that we could make stuff out of then, they had to find a substitute in the natural world. The substitute that they found was castoreum. Castoreum is this chemical, this oil that is secreted from near the anal glands of wild beavers.
Hmm.
So they milked their anal glands for castoreum, and they used it to make vanilla flavoring and the basis for perfumes. There are actually some perfumes that still have castoreum in them, and some foods that still have castoreum in them as well. But it won't say castoreum, it'll say natural flavors, because legally you can call beaver anal excretions natural flavors.
Natural beavers.
Natural, all natural, 100% organic beaver anal gland secretions. Delicious. It also will explain why sometimes when you're walking through the woods, you will randomly smell vanilla. That means there's probably beavers nearby because the beavers use the castoreum to mark their territory.
Hmm.
Anyway, there's no beavers in London. No natural beavers. But there is a giant, stinky, disgusting river called the Thames. It's one of the most foul things in the universe, the Thames is, because it's had this big, giant industrial city sitting on it for hundreds of years. And it's gross. And they have to really carefully control the way the water flows because London is built right up on the banks of the Thames on both sides. Because of climate change, there's been a lot of flooding that's been happening in low-lying parts of Europe and all over the rest of the world. So there are other parts of the UK specifically, where what they did to fix that problem was bring in beavers, who then they would release into the wild to start a breeding population so that beavers would do what beavers do, which is build dams, which they did up and down the streams. And after a while, this just kind of regulated the rivers on their own. This is a huge problem in London, according to this article. London is so low lying, and the Thames is so like huge and prone to overflowing that they're afraid people are going to drown because the flooding could get to a point where people in basement apartments, of which there are many along the banks of the Thames in London, wouldn't have enough warning to get out of their apartments and they would drown and die. So in real life, these beavers, Sigourney Beaver and Justin Beaver may indeed like literally save the lives of many people in London by just going out and being their best beaver selves. And that's the background of the best headline of the year thus far.
Beaver fever. Beaver fever, yeah.
Sigourney Beaver is really good though. I like that very much. Whew. Oh, wonderful. I love that. I love it. I also think it's crazy that we hunted these beavers to extinction for their anal gland secretions, and so we could make more top hats. Like,
yeah.
Top hats were so important that we hunted a species to extinction so we could have more top hats. That's fucking crazy.
Well, I know there was fashion
Wow.
well, not fashion, I don't think necessarily, but a beaver fur coat was a
It
very
was a big deal.
popular item at one point. Just like
Yeah.
a raccoon fur coat was.
Yep. Yep. But we hunted them so to the middle of no, like, obviously the people at that time weren't thinking. Like, to them, it was just, I want another beaver fur coat. This is really delicious ice cream. And they didn't care. It was just a beaver. It didn't even occur to them to give a shit about a beaver. And now here we are 200 years later. And literally there's people who might drown because it fucked up the river system so bad not having these beavers that with all of our engineering and science, we can't think of a better way to fix it than the beavers will do just being beavers.
Here's a comment from Shane. He thinks, I think it was Oregon Trail that taught me the value of a beaver's anal gland. I don't remember that being in the game.
I think what Shane is saying is that it does get lonely out on the Oregon Trail.
If you don't, by the way, if you don't know what we're talking about, because I definitely like, some younger people probably don't.
Oh my God, there's no way.
Oregon Trail was a very crude computer game that you would often play in computer class, where you are
Listen,
giving commands to people traveling in the pioneer days.
it was simple, but it wasn't crude.
All right.
That was
Well, that was a bad word. You're right. It was beautiful.
it was the first like interactive adventure video game. It was Oregon Trail, and
Yeah.
it was in like not even 8-bit. It was in like 4-bit green blocky pixels on like a giant 50 like you remember those computers that were as big as approximately a butterball turkey?
Yeah. Jenna says, I love that game.
It's a great game.
And it was brutal because you make 2 or 3 wrong decisions.
You die of dysentery.
You're dead.
You
Gone.
die of dysentery. It's funny is my kid is 18 years old and has obviously never played Oregon Trail, but because Oregon Trail is a part of like our cultural history,
Yeah.
he gets like the memes about Oregon Trail, even though he's never played it.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I've even seen people wearing T-shirts with like a graphic from it on and stuff.
Yeah, people are all the time dying of dysentery. That wasn't the only way to die in Oregon Trail, you guys. It was brutal out there. Bad things happened. I'm old enough to remember when Oregon Trail was the game everybody wanted to play. And then Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego came out.
Yeah.
It was on like 6 floppy disks or whatever. and like that was the shit. That was like super high. Like that was the fanciest video game that you could possibly get. And oh man, in the school computer lab, there was somebody I think got shanked with like a toothbrush that had been ground down into like a shiv for their like right to be the next person to play Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego. Holy crapola. Well, great. Remind me to check my dentures after the show. That's really good.
I'm sure you can play it online somewhere. I want to find it.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you could probably get it in one of those things in the store that are $20 and have all 200 video games that came out between like 1976 and 1995, all in this one thing. They're hanging right next to those small bags of Cheetos or whatever you can buy them.
Oh yeah, I love all those games. Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, the hardest fucking game to play. It's ridiculous.
Super hard. Space Invaders, which is deceptively simple until the final round, and then you get your ass kicked every time. Oh, those were the days.
So if people didn't know this about me, I love art heist stories. I've got at least a couple books that were written by like FBI agents who are in the art crimes division. It's very fascinating stuff to me for some reason. So this isn't quite an art. Well, it is. It is.
It's art. Yeah.
Apparently, at some point, a couple of Charles Darwin's notebooks went missing from Cambridge University. I'm just going to read a little bit from this article on HuffPost about, because it's very, very interesting stuff. The notebooks, which include the 19th century scientist's famous 1837 Tree of Life sketch, went missing in 2001 after being removed for photographing, though at the time staff believed they might have just been misplaced. After searches of the library's collection of 10 million books, maps, and manuscripts failed to find them, they were reported stolen to police in October 2020. So that's 19 years later, by the way. Apparently, it takes 19 years to go through 10 million documents.
Sure.
The local detectives notified the global police organization Interpol and launched an international hunt for the notebooks valued at millions of pounds. On March 9th, the books reappeared, left in a public area of the building outside the librarian's office, which is not covered by security cameras. The two notebooks were wrapped in cling film inside their archive box and appeared undamaged. The accompanying note said, "Librarian, Happy Easter X."
Okay, there are, I think, 3 plausible scenarios here. First of all, I'd like to point out that these showed up shortly after they were finally reported stolen, because they've been missing for 20 years, but like they just reported them stolen, which means it was at that point that it became a crime, right? At that point. I'm guessing what actually happened was somebody who worked at the museum literally just stuck them in their back pocket and forgot they were there and got home and were like, oh shit, these are Charles Darwin's notebooks. And then we're like, I'll take those back tomorrow. And then left him on the little shelf where they keep their keys, little ceramic gnome, little dish with keys, Charles Darwin's multi-million-dollar notebooks. And just every day for 20 years, just totes forgot to bring them back to work. And then somebody reported it stolen. They're like, oh shit, I should probably get on top of that. That's scenario number 1. Scenario number 2 is the obvious Nick Cage, I'm going to steal the Declaration of Independence scenario, where somebody desperately needed Darwin's notebooks in order to solve some international, like, mystery conspiracy thing involving loosely the Illuminati / Bohemian Grove / the Colonel's 11 secret herbs and spices. That's number 3. Number 4, or that's number 2. Number 3 is obviously time travel. Time traveler finds the notebooks in the future, wherever they were, on a completely unrelated time traveling escapade adventure, grabs them, and then just like as a nice, like, just a nice little gesture, just stops in 2022 and drops a notebox off for the librarian. That's what I think.
Okay. Well, my theory is somewhat similar to your number 1 theory, but not quite as innocent. I think that the library employed a Charles Darwin stan, I think is what the kids call it. And so they're removing these notebooks, and this person saw them, and they were like, and why not? Why shouldn't I take them?
Bilbo style.
Yeah. And he's like, yes, I have them. And someone's like, hey, where those Darwin notebooks go? And they're like, I don't know. Have you checked all 19 million documents that we have? And they just kept these, and they're like, oh yeah, this is so great. I have these notebooks. And then 20 years later, they're like, okay, we're calling Interpol. And then they were like, fuck, dude, now the jig is up, and I gotta get these back. So
okay, here's a question.
Slyly slide them back in.
Okay, so okay, Dan, okay. So it's not like museums employ an entire like crack team of investigators, right? Museums are public places. They're usually not for profit. They struggle for grants. They don't have a lot of people who work there to begin with, mostly. And there was, what did you say, 10 million, 14 million documents?
I think it was 19.
19 million documents.
Yeah.
Something like that. So that's roughly 1 million documents a year.
Oh, no, 10 million. Yeah, 10 million.
10 million. So 500,000 documents a year that they had to go through trying to find this.
Yeah.
Which is like, sorry, I'm trying to do math in my head. It's like 1,700 documents a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Right? Yeah. That's a lot of fucking documents. But did they do it that way, or did it just go in spurts? Like, did they have somebody in the basement around the clock, 24/7, Christmas Eve, Ramadan, didn't matter, just desperately searching for these fucking notebooks for 20 years? Did that guy ever come up to like the break room, just dusty, covered in cobwebs? Because he's looking through documents no one's looked through since 1935, and is going, you guys, I am so far in this basement right now. There's no way, unless someone took these notebooks and threw them like a boomerang, that they're back here. Can we please just call the fucking cops. I want to see the sun. I was hired to work at the dinosaur exhibit. This is bullshit. Just some poor innocent intern wasting their life in the basement looking for these notebooks. And the whole time it was like in Bob's TV room.
Right. Right.
That poor bastard. That's his villain origin story.
Here's a couple great comments we got. First of all, okay, so the note was signed X, right? Mysterious X. Ray is pointing out, thank the gods it wasn't signed Q.
Right, we'd never hear the end of that shit.
We'd never hear
Christ.
that group in Dallas would get back together. And
Oh my god.
say that Q took Darwin's notes to get Trump reelected for some reason. You know, they would tie it together. They would tie it all together for sure.
There would be some way in which John F. Kennedy, aka Donald Trump, was trying to disprove evolution to put Jesus back in schools or something.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
you know the Venn diagram of people who don't want evolution taught in schools and people who think Donald Trump is JFK is just a circle.
Yeah.
For sure. Oh, that would have been messy. Wait, X.
And here's Shane's theory. My favorite theory would be if someone died and their kids found them and decided to be a little cheeky, and that's a great word because this takes place in England. Once they knew what they had, that could be too, you know.
If that's the case, those kids need to look in the fucking attic, because if the granddad had Darwin's notebooks just laying around, who the hell knows what else he's got in there? Probably like some ancient Egyptian amulets.
Yeah.
Possibly like a stuffed gorilla. There could be anything.
The real Mona Lisa.
The real Mona Lisa, obviously. Yeah, you guys should look into that. You guys should check. Oh, what if they did and they like kept all the good stuff? What if there's like some apartment in Devonshire? There's some dude who's just like in a dead end job who just happens to also have like the Ark of the Covenant, like sitting in his den, and like doesn't know what to do with it because granddad stole it from the museum. If they had the Ark of the Covenant, it's not like they could report it stolen. They couldn't tell anybody that shit. I think that stuff about like the Nazis went around and just stole everything from everybody. That was like their big thing. And there's a whole bunch of conspiracies about where there might be a whole bunch of like Nazi gold buried or Nazi loot or whatever. Because in real life, like Hitler made sure that the Nazis were taking not just valuable things as in terms of like money and gold and silver and stuff like that, but also famous pieces of art, like the Amber Room. Do you ever hear about the Amber Room?
I don't think so.
There's a whole room in Russia that was part of the Imperial Palace. That was a room that was constructed entirely of amber, like the semi-precious stone. The walls, the ceiling, the furniture, the chandeliers, everything was made out of amber. At some point, it was taken apart and hidden so the Nazis wouldn't get it. Allegedly, they did get it and stole it and buried it somewhere. Nobody knows what happened to all these tremendously valuable pieces of art that the Nazis stole from everybody in Europe all over the place. But there's always been conspiracy theories that these things are hidden in some bunker in South America, that these things are hidden like in Antarctica, where allegedly the Nazis had a huge base because they were looking for the entry to the Hollow Earth, like all kinds of wacky shit like that. I think it's probably more likely a Raiders of the Lost Ark situation, where a bunch of this stuff just ended up in people who knew where they were long dead, and they're just sitting back there collecting dust, doing nothing, right? So you got to think that there's got to be somebody living in some shitty warehouse district someday, walks every single day on their way to go get a bagel past like a big abandoned warehouse filled with, you know, the Amber Room missing from the Russian Imperial Palace or whatever. Like maybe they just found a box in the back of something and we're like, this looks like Charles Darwin's handwriting or something.
I would definitely love to do an episode maybe next season on art crimes, stolen art, because there's a lot of really good stories. I'm really kind of obsessed. I forget the name of the museum off the top of my head, but the one in Boston where these guys like duct tape the security guards and then they stole about 16 very valuable pieces of art, along with a couple of pieces of art that weren't really worth anything. So they didn't
Just because they
quite.
liked him.
No, they didn't quite know what they were doing. Like some of them seemed
Oh,
to be targeted, but then yeah, I guess they just kind of grabbed a couple other pieces on their way
sure.
out the door. But those have never been recovered. This happened in 1990, I think. And one of these books I read, it was so frustrating because the FBI art crimes unit was closing in on them, but then like some other, how like law enforcement, they're always trying to like outdo each other, and this other agency came in and totally fucked the whole thing up, and the criminals got away with the art, and it's never been seen since.
Dude, that's
But
just wacky.
yeah, it's
That,
and there's all these different theories about it was the Boston Mafia, and it was this person and that person. There's all these different theories. So yeah, and it's one of many stories of pretty incredible art thefts that have happened over the
yeah,
centuries.
and it's crazy to me because art has no intrinsic value. I mean, it has value because art has value and it's self-expression and it's, part of history and whatever, but like we decide what art is worth, any art at any point in time. There's a lot of like discussion in the art world about how like there's essentially a small group of people who arbitrarily decide the value of a piece of art. Like that one asshole who taped a banana to a wall.
Oh
Remember
yeah,
that was like 3 years ago? And then
yeah.
like he had somebody came along and ate the banana and they tried to charge him with a crime and like say that he owed $85,000 or whatever because that's what this guy had charged for this piece. And the guy was like, there's no fucking way that I'm going to pay $85,000 for this banana. It turned out to be a but because we have decided that some of these pieces of art are worth a tremendous amount of money, and because it's arbitrary, the world of art is also the world of money laundering. Because a lot of people who have a lot of like big bulks of money who need to figure out how to make it legit will say that they purchased this piece of art from whomever for $10 million, even though they didn't at all pay $10 million for that piece of art. They just needed to have a reason where this $10 million came from. So it's interesting to think about the great lengths that people go to steal pieces of art, because in real life, it's just a piece of canvas, right? It's just a piece of rock, not actually
Remember,
worth anything.
you remember when Banksy hit a shredder in
Oh,
the bottom of
genius.
the frame? That
Uh,
was that was some roll on the floor, laugh out loud stuff right there.
so good. You know what the real piece of art was like the video footage of those, like the sound
Yeah,
of the shredders starting, and then like the moment of silence where people couldn't figure out what was going on,
yeah.
followed by like 100 people going, oh, all at the same time. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, just gorgeous, just beautiful, just
Uh,
fucking beautiful.
Smelly has got a question for us. Have you talked about the crystal skulls before? No,
No,
we haven't, but that would be another good topic for next season. We can look into
yeah,
the
I
famous
like that.
crystal skulls.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you guys like we'll do some more just like general discussing of interesting topics and not just bringing you the latest in weird news. Although we will continue to bring you the latest in weird news, lest you be like deprived of that. We know that we are your only outlet for weird things on the entire internet, and we take that very seriously.
Okay, here's we got time maybe for one more story. This is a cute one. This is something that we talk about a lot. Our robot overlords, and it looks like Chinese researchers are creating robot nannies to nurture babies in artificial wombs, because that's not matrixy enough, is it?
No, no,
Oh man.
no. I like in the article that the big thing that they brought up was that the whole point of this is not for robots to like be nannies to take care of children who are already born. The point is that they want to grow fetuses, human fetuses, in essentially big sandwich bags filled with amniotic fluid, And the reason that they want to do this is, first of all, so that babies who are premature can essentially go back into the womb, so they have a higher chance of survival and not having as many birth defects, which is noble. But also so that women need not fall pregnant themselves. And that was the term that they used in the article, fall pregnant, as though it were a calamity that happened to these people. Yeah, so that women don't actually have to bother being pregnant at all. And then the robots that they're talking about, their job would be to like monitor and like, I don't know, I guess like release proper chemicals at the proper time, because like the process of gestation is not just like this thing grows inside of like your meat sack or whatever. It like needs certain chemicals at certain times in order to develop properly. And like other things, the thing about it is that we don't actually understand gestation that well. We don't know like how much of it is like the fetus needs the mother's heartbeat, needs like her. Okay, are you ready for some gross stuff? Here's some gross stuff. Here it comes. If you have a natural labor where you like force this like 10-pound butterball turkey out of your vagina, you are going to poop yourself. People don't talk about this enough. I don't know why they don't. You poop. It's going to happen. There's a lot of pushing going on, okay? Like it's going to occur. When that happens, the baby is going to get some poop on it. And like probably a lot of other people down at that end of the room. I'm surprised they don't show that more too. They have proven that babies that are birthed this way have certain immunities. They're less prone to having digestive problems later in life than a child, say, delivered by cesarean section, who does not get the benefit of getting pooped on as it is being born. They have no idea why that happens. Is it just incidental, or is it part of design? They don't know. They don't know anything about it. They can't even keep like baby pigs and lambs alive in one of these big sandwich bags for more than like 2 or 3 weeks. I think they said the longest they'd ever gone was 40 days, 42 days for like a lamb fetus or whatever. So the idea that the robots would be in charge of figuring this out is a little bit concerning. It's also concerning considering I read another article this week about how scientists had in fact created a synthetic life form, a robot that is self-replicating. Like they figured out how to make robots that would make more little robots. They're just nanobots. But still, like, I don't know that we should teach them all about gestation, or that they should know all about how that works, or that they should be the ones to figure it out. And I don't know. It just seems like one of those things we don't know enough about to try and automate it. That's my concern. That was a whole lot of information. You're welcome, you guys. Super welcome.
Okay, well, on that note, that's all the news that we got for you this
and
week,
then some,
and then some, and for this season, we're gonna take some time off and come up with some show ideas. These are great. I'm glad that people are asking about things that we have not talked about. If you want to hit us up with your ideas, you could post something in the Tease Weird Week Facebook group. You can also email us at teaseweirdweek@gmail.com and say, hey, have you guys ever talked about this? Or here's something I'm really interested in, and we'll totally look into it.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, we're going to go on spring break. I hope everyone is doing well out there, and we'll see you soon.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.